Hello. Today I wanted to record a quick, inspirational, motivational, pep talky kind of video because giving pep talky talks is one of my favorite things to do. And maybe I need to hear it the most today, but I also just wanted to share for anyone who happens to need to hear this. So, one of my favorite things to remind myself and remind other people is the power of looking back and reflecting on how far we've come. Now, know that sounds super cliche, but think about it for a minute. How often are you looking at your to do list and thinking about the things that you haven't achieved yet and your dreams and your goals for the future? Probably often. And that's a good thing. It's incredible to think about our future and to have a vision for the future and to have to do lists and tasks and things to keep us moving forward. And I think it's super, super important to take time regularly to literally celebrate ourselves for the things that we've done. Because it's so super easy to do something and then just move on immediately and go right on to the next thing without giving that thing its proper celebration. So, for example, you see people all the time finish projects. So they may finish writing a book, and then people are like, when's the next one coming out? And that's great to say, hey, we want more. And it's also really important, I think, to stop and pause and really let the weight of the accomplishment soak in. And we do this with little things all the time. Maybe you're working on a project at work, and as soon as it's over, you're just on to the next thing. And the reason this can be bad and detrimental, and the thing I see with my clients who are working on improving their confidence and their social skills and their public speaking, is they often will zero in on where they still need to go. And so it's part of my job as their coach to remind them on all the things that they've already done. There was a quote that I read once that was, today's challenges will be tomorrow's warm-ups, or something like that. And it just reminds you that something that once felt incredibly difficult now probably feels normal. It probably feels easy because you've done it so many times. So think back to your very first day at your job. If you are working and how nervous you might have been then, and then think about how you feel now. Or think about the first time you ever went on a date with someone, and then think about how you feel now going on a date with someone. And the things that you've learned and the ways that you've grown. And it's important to stop and remind ourselves of our progress so often. And again, I know this sounds very cliche. It's nothing earth-shattering, but I realize people do this very infrequently, myself included. And when I'm feeling down or feeling stuck in a rut, it's usually because I'm forgetting to acknowledge my awesomeness. And I'm forgetting to acknowledge all the amazing things I've already done. And instead, I'm stuck in the loop of I'm not good enough, or I haven't done enough, or whatever limiting beliefs that we always tell ourselves. So, the way I like to put this into perspective is imagine you are hiking a mountain. And you look from the bottom, you're looking up at the top of the mountain, and it's so beautiful, but like looks really far. So let's say you've climbed halfway up the mountain and you're still looking at the peak of the mountain and it seems so far away. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for so long. I'm so exhausted and it's still that far away. It seems like it's impossible. But now imagine you're halfway up the mountain and instead of focusing at the peak, you look behind you and you see the beautiful view and you're just breathless. It's taking your breath away because you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. I used my own two legs to climb this far up the mountain. And that is a lot more motivating to keep going because then it's, wow, if it looks this beautiful from here, I wonder how beautiful it'll look from the top. And I think that is so much more motivating than constantly looking at the goal, looking at the goal, looking at the goal, which always feels like out of reach. It feels like we're never going to get there. But when we stop and we look back and we take in the view and we appreciate and enjoy and savor and celebrate ourselves for all the good things that we've done, that is way more encouraging to keep going. So think about something in your life that feels insurmountable, that feels like, oh my gosh, I will never reach that goal. And think about all the steps, even if they're baby steps, that you've taken so far to get there. So for my clients who are working on improving their social skills, for example, I may have them reflect on conversations that went well. Every time a client and I meet, I say, so since our last session, tell me about all the speaking experiences you've had that have gone well, or any that stood out as being particularly comfortable or particularly good that you felt really good about. And that's way more motivating than starting with, well, this one was bad and this one was bad and this one was bad. Not to say that we don't want to reflect on those experiences, because we do. We do obviously want to keep growing and learning, and so it's helpful to reflect on things that don't go quite as we'd hoped so that we know what to work on and we know what to move forward with. And it's so much more motivating to start from the positive. So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and videos lately about achieving our dreams and manifesting and all of that. And every expert says the same thing, which is that you can't get more if you're coming from a place of lack. So if you're feeling like you don't have enough, it's really hard to get more because you're coming from an energy of not enoughness. Versus if you accept where you are and say, okay, this is enough, and are open to receiving more, then that's more likely to come your way. And the same works with anything that we're trying to achieve. And it also just boosts our self-esteem. It makes us feel a lot better when we feel good about ourselves, and it increases our confidence when we reinforce positive beliefs about ourselves. So if you're experiencing a challenge getting somewhere or achieving something, you probably have beliefs about yourself that say it's difficult to achieve. But if you really celebrate each of those baby steps, then you'll start to train your mind to understand that you are capable of it. So to give you an example for myself, I'm in the process right now of publishing my first book, and it's been so super exciting. I'm going to record a video sharing all about how I did it for anyone who's interested in self-publishing, but it's each step of the way, it's like, oh my gosh, and this is a process, and this is a process, and this is a process. But I think what has helped me manage it and actually get it done is that I stopped focusing on the big main goal. So that's important to keep in mind. You want to have your outcome in mind, I guess. A lot of the time that's helpful. Keep your eye on the prize, they say. So I knew where eventually I wanted to go, but I wasn't focusing all the time on the book being printed, which is what finally got me going. So for a while, in my head, publishing a book just sounds like such a big, lofty goal that I never got started on it, that I just never did it. But then when I started focusing instead on little baby steps, like, okay, what if I just organize my poems in this document? Okay, what if I imagine that maybe one day it'll be a book? And maybe one thing I did was I put together the manuscript with the goal of showing it to my mom, saying, I don't know if I'll publish this, but I want to show it to my mom. She has a terminal illness. I didn't know if she'd be around long enough to see my book be published, and I wanted her to read it. So I kind of broke it down with a lower pressure sort of outcome. Instead of publishing the book, it was I'm doing this for my mom to see it, but there was some urgency to it that was motivating as well. So then I broke it down into, okay, I formatted the document, and then it kind of sat on my computer for a while, and it wasn't until I spoke to someone who had published a book and she broke down a lot of the steps for me that it was like, okay, this is doable. But then again, instead of focusing on how far I still had to go, because if I'd realized it would be as tedious as it is, I don't know if I would have done it, to be honest. I mean, I would have. I don't regret it at all, and I'm super excited. But I didn't realize it would be quite so tedious. Not difficult, just tedious. And part of that is just formatting of a poetry book. But anyway, because my poems are very long. But anyway, so I was able then to think, okay, baby steps, I'm doing the cover. And then as soon as I finished the cover, it was like, ooh, I'm so excited, I did the cover. And I made sure to kind of celebrate myself for each of those steps. And then what do you know? I just submitted this morning for my book to be published, and it should be ready in a few days. Probably by the time this video comes out, it'll already be published. And if that's the case, I will link it in the description. But all of this is to say we can make big projects feel good, not just by breaking them down into small steps. You probably already know that. Break things down into manageable to-dos, but celebrate yourself after each to-do. And sometimes we don't want to do that because we think like we don't deserve it, or we don't want to be arrogant or whatever. But I think that it is impossible to feel good about ourselves and to be confident without giving ourselves a little love. So my encouragement for you today is look back. You're standing, you're halfway up the mountain, and look back and reflect. Make a list of all the things you've done to get where you want to go. It will surprise you. So we always focus on to-do lists. I'm a big fan of have-done lists. So I'm not one of those people who makes a to-do list and just deletes the item once I complete it. I cross it off so that at the end of the day I can see how much I've done, because that feels really good and it's very motivating. So make your list of all the things you've already done. And if you don't have a specific big goal in mind, just stop right now and make a list of everything you've done today. That can be, I got out of bed, I brushed my teeth, I made breakfast, I took a walk, I answered an email, whatever it is that you've done up until now today. They don't have to be big things, but just get in the habit of celebrating yourself and acknowledging yourself, not because that will make you lazy, because sometimes people think, oh, if I celebrate myself for doing nothing, I'm not going to be motivated to do more. That won't happen. Positivity and success begets more positivity and success. Negativity and being hard on yourself will beget more of that as well. So if you're hard on yourself, you're saying, oh, I haven't done anything, and you're constantly yelling at yourself, it's really hard to get motivated. And I'm saying that as a person who has spent years berating myself for wasting time. And I'd say, oh my gosh, because I've had a flexible job for a long time and I don't work that many hours per week. So I have a lot of free time. And it's only in the past year, maybe year and a half, that I've started using that free time really productively in making these videos and writing poetry and putting together my book and online courses and all of these other things. But before that, my block was not that I didn't have the time. It wasn't that I didn't have the skill. It wasn't even that I didn't have the belief in myself that I could do it. It was that I was constantly telling myself I'm not productive. And so even if I would take baby steps towards the bigger goal, let's say I wrote some poems, but I would say, oh, but I don't know what to do with them. And then I would yell at myself for being unproductive that day. When now, if I do something and it ends up being a throwaway, I celebrate myself for doing it because it was still an exercise for my brain. It was still working towards something. And dwelling on ourselves, wasting time, is just not a fruitful activity. There's no good that comes from that. So anyway, that's my stream of consciousness little pep talk for you today. Again, stop what you're doing. Make a list of everything that you've done well this week or today or in the past month or towards your specific goal. And the most important part, acknowledge what you've done and be happy for yourself and be proud of yourself. and acknowledge what you have left to do from a place of joy, a place of excitement. It's, wow, how beautiful will my view look from the top of the mountain if it already looks this beautiful from halfway up. That's it for today. If you haven't yet downloaded my free Perspective Shifts download, please check that out in the description. If you haven't looked at my Show Up Sure Secrets to Embody Confidence for a Lifetime course, I highly encourage you to check that out. And please, I would love it if you subscribe to my email list, where I'll be sending out little motivational, inspirational messages like the one I shared today. Comment if you enjoyed, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely time celebrating yourself and being your own best cheerleader.